Thank you.
員
Thank you, members. And the people of Hong Kong, it is the appointed time for the meeting, and we have a quorum. Welcome to the special meeting of the panel on food safety and environment hygiene. All members of the Legislative Council have been invited to join the meeting. In the panel meeting held on the 10th of July this year, the administration provided paper CB2175 to the Legislative Council to introduce the various policies under the new agricultural policy, including progress of the agricultural park. On the 10th of July, members agreed that there should be a public hearing held on the proposal to set up the agri-park. The relevant papers have been circulated to members before the meeting. The Secretariat has received 65 replies from individuals and deputations who will attend the meeting to present their oral views. And the Secretariat has also received 2 submissions from an individual and a deputation which will not attend the meeting. All the papers have been sent to members, and also there are some papers which have just been tabled. The meeting will be in 2 sessions. The first session will run for 2 hours 10 minutes, and that is from 9 to 11:10, receiving 35 deputations. The second session will run for 2 hours from 11:10 to 1:10 to receive views from 30 deputations. The seating plans have been tabled. Individuals and deputations, each of you will have 3 minutes. If you have submissions to present to the panel, please do so now or after the meeting. In front of you, you can see certain equipment. Channel 1 is for Cantonese, Channel 2 for English, Channel 3 for English. Please clip on the mic when you speak. I'd also like to remind you that your remarks are not covered and protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 382. Your submissions are in the same category. Please note that in the Legislative Council complex, when you attend meetings here and also when you sit in the public gallery, please refer to the notice placed in front of you, and also it has been sent to you in papers sent to you by the clerk. Members of the public who are in the public gallery can seek a copy of the notice from the security guards. First, I'd like to ask the administration to make a few opening remarks. Dr. Choi, Under Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to welcome the deputations for coming to this special meeting. We are here to listen to your views on the advanced works for Phase 1 of the agricultural park. In the past 1 to 2 years, at different stages of the consultation, we have heard many views, and we are here to listen to you again. That's all for me for now. Mr. Leung Sai-hong, he is not here. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, thank you, Chairman. Talking about not being covered by the Powers and Privileges Ordinance, I was a councillor, but I was disqualified, and I'm not covered by the ordinance. That is quite ridiculous. This time around, this is about the 2016 policy address made by Mr. C.Y. Leung. I threw something at him on that day. In 2016, he thought that he would be the CE again in 2017. It was in October. Now, $500 million have been put aside to resume land. We have 700 hectares of farmland, and they are going to resume 1/10 of it, putting aside $500 million for people to revive the farmland concerned. How will that be done? How will the $500 million be spent? We don't know. You have spent $200 million already. You are chasing people out. Those at Chilking. If you succeed, it would mean that those people who are working on hydroponics in the factory buildings will be subsidized by the government, but the small farmers will be chased out. Our precious land resources would be used to benefit those who want to start a business here. If they want to have organic vegetables, they can go to City Super. But later on, the rich will be able to engage in neo-agribusinesses. Small farmers will lose their business, and poor people will eat poor quality vegetables. What kind of a government are you? We need land badly. Number 2. Carrie Lam couldn't even deal with mangrove. Look at the trees that have fallen. Are we in a forest? This government cannot even manage our trees. You talk about agriculture, right? Carrie Lam told Hong Kong people, this is good. All our 3 bridges are in good shape. And she was claiming credit or trying to claim credit with the CCP. Our government is quite crazy. We would invest money into the Bay Area like Macau so Hong Kong people can move there. And number 2, we are using $700 billion. We listened to C.H. Tung that the Hong Kong Foundation is saying we should use $700 billion to make 2,200 hectares of land. And I don't know for whom. Just now, the lady was telling me that she would not be able to work in this business, but I told her she will be able to after this plan is implemented. Members of the public, please make the best use of these 3 minutes. Please do not make use of this particular topic to venture into other areas. Please make the best use of your 3 minutes. Next one, Mr. Ng Hei Man. Thank you. Kwu Tung South, Chilking is a traditional agricultural area. It is the only one which is of a big area and which is of quality. Even if you are going to do agriculture in the same piece of land, you have to be very careful in the planning. You just cannot tackle it as any infrastructure project. So you have to look at the hydrology, soil, topography, and ecology, and all these environmental baselines in order to make your planning. If you want to make the best use of the resources in the farming area, we believe the agri-park should be led by production. There should be a lot of planning instead of relying on commercialized leisure farms and also flower farms which rely on import from the mainland. All these should be kept out of this plan. We believe the present proposed dual-lane road is not convincing. We agree that traffic infrastructure is important for farm operations, but you are proposing a dual-lane road. And how can it tie in with the planning of the 2 phases of the agri-park? Why can't we have single-lane roads? What are the logistics requirements for different production areas? Can you not improve existing roads or the pathways along farms? And how can you tie in with the other complementary facilities like storage and lay-bys and composting on farms? And also, if you look at the area of Phase 1, there is this Cheung Lake farm which is doing some exploration in the area, and it is built without a dual-lane road. Therefore, even if you think that there are transportation needs for farms, you don't necessarily have to plan for such a massive dual-lane road. As for the farm wagons, it is proposed that in the future we can use farm wagons.
And we think that if that is going to be promoted for use, there needs to be more support. Say, for example, how can farmers be assisted to obtain the vehicle license and to find the suitable type of farm wagons? For this type of vehicles, they are subject to regulations under the road related ordinance. Well, you have to take into account the structure and the build of the vehicles as well as its routes. First of all, such vehicles should be used only in improved roads. If the road condition is not suitable for the use of farm vehicles, then they need to be improved instead of building a dual-lane carriageway. Next, Mr. Chen Kin-ye. I'm very glad that CY Leung, the last chief executive, announced this new agricultural policy. It includes the agri-park. However, if we are to resolve all the issues related to agriculture, we need to put in place proper supporting facilities in a comprehensive way. The setting up of the agri-park will promote the development of agricultural-related technology. We support the agri-park, and I do think that the government should be determined to take it forward. The opposition has stirred up trouble for nothing, and they might as well destroy the agri-park. Before land resumption, let me say this. There needs to be proper resettlement of farmers. The government, on a number of occasions, undertake to reprovide agricultural farm land. We know that freezing surveys include rates set at an outdated level. We also need to improve on the consultation process of the agri-park. Our association has high expectations of the agri-park. If the government, however, continues to do it behind closed doors, we think that there will be a lot of problems because the park will be managed and developed by people who don't know about the trade. It's just like science park or industrial park. It would be better for these facilities to be managed by a management company. We hope that a brand will be built, marketing will be done by the government. The AFCD has programs to ensure quality. However, there is no such mechanisms for fruits and things like beef. Producers may be involved in the production of these products, but they are not involved in marketing, so more should be done. Your time's up. Next, Mr. Wong Yun Tai. Good morning, everyone. I am from the Yuen Long Farm Market. I welcome the idea of the agri-park. I do think it is conducive to the long-term development of agriculture in Hong Kong. However, I would like to draw your attention to a number of areas. First, we need a wide road to link agri-park to Chiu Kang Road, Fanling Highway, to support logistics. Utilities, drainage, car parks, storage facilities, all should be put in place. There needs to be a one-stop service for from production, marketing to consumption. Some people said that we don't need a wider road. We only need a road that is about 3 to 4 feet wide. I grew up in a farm in the 1960s and 70s. I rode my bike to deliver goods, and then in the 1980s I used a goods van and then a 3.3 tons. Now I use a 16-ton truck with cooling facilities. I don't understand why people think that we should revert back to the 1960s using bicycles for delivery. I think for these people, farming is for fun, not to make a living. We do need to establish our brand and to put in place outlets. There should be more exchange with overseas countries as well as the mainland, and to introduce new and quality products. We need to build our brand. We need to have our own outlets all over the territory. We have to ensure stable salary or income for agriculture and to ensure quality for our consumers. I hope that there will be dedicated areas for poultry farming so that they will produce quality products and will not be subject to contamination. I hope that this agri-park will be properly established. Next, Mr. Chong. Hello. On behalf of Hong Kong Pig Raising Development Federation, I'd like to raise a number of points. Well, the agri-park doesn't cover poultry farming. Well, for poultry, it's 100% reliance on import. With advancement in technology, we need to explore more possibilities to increase the quality. There is a controlled environment to farm poultry. This will reduce diseases. Housing development affects farms. There are 5 farms in Yuen Long that have been affected. I hope that there should be assistance given to our poultry farming. The agri-park project has started. We support it. However, there are no roads. How can we move resources, machinery, and products in and out of the agri-park? There are roads for science park, industrial parks, and the eco park. If there is production at the agri-park, there needs to be roads for trucks. Every year we use 40,000 tons of feed. Without proper roads, how can we move the resources in and out of the park? With an increasing demand of activities inside the park, then the roads will not be able to cope. For those people who have been affected by the land resumption under the agri-park, there should be proper compensation and resettlement. The establishment of the park will enable continuous development of the trade. It can also combine the technology to enable diversified development in Hong Kong. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chu Kam-ming. I am an office holder of vegetable marketing in Chiu Kang. I have over 30 years of experience. No one is more familiar with the trade than I am. At the peak, there are tens of thousands of produce produced. Farmers got up in the middle of the night to harvest, and they had to use wicker baskets to transport the produce to the market, and they had to be very careful, otherwise they would hurt themselves. Now we have this 80-hectare agri-park using technology. Well, we need that is our dream. I don't understand why people would oppose to the building of the road. Now we have a new agricultural policy, and there is the agri-park for us to develop our trade. There will be a wide road to help with transportation. It would save us a lot of effort. How come some people would oppose to that? You want to revert back to 1970s? There is also a transportation of equipment, feed, fertilizers. You think we should use just carts to wheel them into the agri-park? Well, if we don't have proper roads, that will be the end of the agri-park. People opposed to the building of the road, then no one will be using the agri-park. Who is to blame? Where there is development, there needs to be transportation network. We've been talking about agri-park for 10 years. Nothing has happened so far. Our road will facilitate the development of the park. We have paths in Chilkang. It's a one-way road, and if we have a dual carriageway, then they would be much better. Thank you. Next, Mr. Wong Wen-chun. Good morning, everyone. I'm from anti-northeast residents affected by the development. I oppose to the approach of agri-park because it affects small farmers. We have been farming for a very long time. All these policies of the government were formulated behind closed doors. They have never consulted villagers and small farmers, small-scale farmers. We learn about snippets of information through different means. The design of the agri-park, its construction, the future operation, and possible supporting facilities. We know nothing about them. The government has not taken us into account. We have limited technology. We have limited funding. How are we supposed to continue our operation inside the park? I hope that the government will provide quality farmland as well as housing for existing farmers so that we will have a place to live and a farm to work on so that we don't have to worry. In the past, farmers were held in high regard because 100% of food consumed in Hong Kong was produced locally. So don't forget the contribution we have made. I hope the government will recognize the contributions farmers have made. We want to continue our way of life. We want Hong Kong's agricultural operations to continue in the same way. I hope there will be more assistance given to the agricultural sector. Next, Ms. Liu Xiling. I'm a member of an association of farmers and farmers affected. We we cover many different types of farming, husbandry, poultry farming, growing of flowers, fruit, etc. I would like to tell you what happened when I was a child to give you an idea. I grew up in Kutong. I lived there for over 50 years. I came from a family of 8 siblings. We've been living there 5 generations. We love Kutong. We are so used to the way of life there. Farmers have always led a tough life. We had to work in the middle of the night. We're exposed to the elements. We made our living with hard work and sweat. At the same time, we live in fear of losing our produce because of bad weather. Now we are forced to leave our home. It was a tough life, but we were happy. The whole family worked together on the farm, weeding, fertilizing, irrigation. When we see the produce, we were so happy, and we have forgotten about the hard days. I told you about this because I want you to know that despite our difficult life, I would like to continue my way of life with the support of the government. We would like to see supporting policies for the agricultural sector. In July, we sent a letter to the LegCo. We asked for a meeting. However, nothing was done to follow up. I asked officials and legislators to help us set this meeting up to listen to us. We have simple requests. First, we need resettlement and farming rehabilitation. We are affected by the anti-northeast development. We do need farmland. Well, in the middle of the night, we have to go and harvest, and we need to transport the produce to the market. It's difficult. Sorry, your time is up. If you have more to say, you can put it in written form. I know you haven't finished. Next, Mr. Fong Chak Ning. Hello, I live in a felling north, and I'm a vegetable farmer. We're affected by the anti-northeast development. It's very likely that we will be displaced and we'll lose our farmland, we'll lose our living. We hope that there can be farming rehabilitation so that we can continue to make a living. And we have a number of suggestions. First, the government needs to help farmers who choose to rehabilitate to continue to farm inside the agricultural park. The initial setup and operation cost will be high, so we need the government's help. There needs to be irrigation channels. We need utilities and drainage. Farmers' operations are seriously affected by the rain. Say, for example, in the middle of the year there was a red rainstorm warning. Our farms were flooded. We lost a lot. So good drainage is very important to us. And I also asked government to help us to set up greenhouse farming operations so that we can farm throughout the year. 3, I hope that we can live near the farm we work on, because we need to get up in the middle of the night to harvest, and we rest during the day. So we have to go back and forth between where we live and the farm a number of times. If we can live near the farm, that will be very good for us.
So then we can have adequate rest. Apart from that, we need space for storing the equipment, and we also need to hire workers and overseas workers to help us in farming. So the accommodation place should be able to accommodate 3 or more people. And fourthly, we do not have a stable income, so I suggest that the rehabilitation period should be set at 10 years for the first time, and after 10 years farmers could renew their tenancy in a very easy way. And there should also be reasonable rent, taking into account the farmers' affordability. And for the 500 million SADF, the Sustainable Agriculture Development, the application procedures are cumbersome, and the farmers have to shoulder half of the cost, and it's difficult and very hard on them. Thank you. Let me remind members of the public, please switch your mobile phone to a silent mode or even switch it off. If you can't do it, then our staff can help you out. Next one, Ms. Chuck Shofar. Chairman, I am Chuck Shofar. Our farmers suggest that the government set up a retirement protection fund for us to recognize our contribution and support our living. Over the years, we haven't been able to enjoy retirement protection, and we are subject to impact of the elements and natural disasters, and very often we have to suffer great losses. But then we worked very diligently, and sometimes we are injured during farming. And in any case, we continue to work. We insist on producing fresh vegetables, healthy vegetables for Hong Kong people to consume. We make a lot of contributions. And we should set role models for the next generation. And we should pass on our knowledge and techniques and skills to the next generation. We should promote farming among young people in Hong Kong. And we can't afford contributing to MPF, and we hope that the government can help us. And we should be helped with agricultural rehabilitation. So the government should provide retirement protection and MPF for us, for the farmers. And we should be able to have agricultural rehabilitation, and our children should be able to take on the farming. And we should not be renting our farmland to other people, and we should pass on farming to the next generation. And also, sorry, I know that you haven't finished. I am worried that government officials will not be able to comprehend what you said, but please give us your speaking notes so that we can understand better. I have some accent, I know. Mr. Liu Hongcheng. Chairman, good morning, members. I'm affected by the NTNE development. I'm a farmer, and my mother have grown vegetables for some 30 years. I support the idea of an agri-park. And however, there is this report saying that hydroponics will be included in the agri-park. And fruits and tomatoes and also other plants or crops will be grown. Well, we know how to grow this, but then they said that they have very good equipment. You know about the content of the report yourself. have you considered the channels for selling the vegetables from the agri-park? We produce vegetables. Vegetables are also produced from hydroponics. Have you considered whether the market can take in all these products? So that's all I want to say. Next one, Mr. Yip Chi Lam. Good morning. I'm Yip Chi Lam. I've worked on farming for over 10 years, and in the past few years, I noticed that the government has talked more about agricultural policy, and I hope that this is a trend. This is a good trend. I agree that Chilking is a good farmland, and the government's proposal of agri-park is very worrying in many aspects. Many green groups and those supporting organic farming emphasize that the right farming activities should be put in the farmland. And the government said that it respects this comment, but in the planning, that's not the case. And for planning of the roads, I think there will be overdevelopment. A gentleman said that in promoting modern agriculture, we need wide or big carriageway. But if you look at the agricultural scene in Hong Kong, the reverse is true. For many farms, whether it's organic vegetables and other traditional types of vegetables, we don't need dual carriageway. Well, only leisure farms need big carriageways because they need coaches. They need to have space for coaches. So let's face the facts here. We don't have to go to the extremes. We don't have to be so polarized in our views. There are so many advanced farm vehicles which can be put to use. And if you say that dual carriageways is sophisticated and other roads are remote, then I think that's the wrong thinking. Now, Chilking is a very good piece of farmland. We should plan the place in accordance with the actual conditions there. And we should not be developing, say, hydroponics there, which don't need soil. And say for potted plants, flowers, etc., these are not suited for development at the agri-farm. I'm not against these types of farming models, but I think these are more suited to be developed in farmland and also rehabilitated landfills. Now, Chilking is good farmland resources. We should make the best use of it and we should not destroy it. In the course of consultation, the government seems to be very receptive. But then the government is in fact turning a deaf ear to our views. On the surface, it seems to be respecting our views, but is not taking into account our opinions. And in the consultant report, much non-confidential information is redacted, and I don't think there is a need to do that. And I hope that the agri-farm can be planned properly, and I hope that the government will not use the agri-park as a pretext, saying that 400,000 hectares of farmland will be affected by landfills, etc. So don't ignore this 4,000 hectares for the sake of building this 80 hectares of agri-park. Next one, Mr. Wan Chongping. Well, the last term of government decided on building an agri-park after detailed consultation on this piece of land in Kutong South. This is not a huge area, but we think there is indeed a need to build this agri-park. Agricultural produce are basic necessities of Hong Kong government, and our produce can only meet part of the needs in the market. Maybe we can produce premium agricultural products, providing more choices to Hong Kong people. And the government also suggests that a dual two-lane carriageway should be built, and we think there is a need to do that. Well, if we looked back in the 50s, the flower farmers had to carry the flowers all the way to the flower market in Mong Kok to sell them. Now it's in the year 2000, we should not be asking farmers to carry the flowers themselves to the flower market to sell them. There should not be any retrogression. So we support the building of a dual two-lane carriageway. And we also hope that the florists or the flower farmers can grow flowers in that plot. I hope that the government can offer concessionary rent to farmers, and the tenancy period should at least be 5 years. And there should also be renewal of the tenancy. And every farmer should be required to report on their annual production volume so that the relevant departments know exactly whether the farmers are actually operating in that park. Next one, we have Mr. Chang Kwok-kang. Thank you. Chairman, I'm from the Hong Kong Florists Association. The government has proposed building an agri-park in Kwu Tung South and North District. We support this proposal. And the government also proposed that a dual two-lane carriageway be built. We also support that. Now, we have the following points to make. First, for applicants for operating in the agri-park, there should be vetting and verification of the applications so that the bona fide farmers can operate in the agri-park. Second, for approved applicants, they should be making returns to the relevant departments on their annual production. Third, the tenancy period should be at least 8 years so that investors can readily invest in their production. Fourth, the government should provide rent concession. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Chen Ah-lun. I am from the Hong Kong Vegetable Union, and I think that in order that the agri-park can be operated successfully, we rely on the farmers, and we also have to establish a good sales platform. I support improving the Dawn Bazaar in the North District. There should be synergy between the two, the agri-park and the Dawn Bazaar. I have been in the field for over 40 years, and I think we have a diversified society in Hong Kong. I see that the agri-park, is aimed at developing modern or high-tech farming, but we should not be neglecting the disadvantaged. The small farmers are the disadvantaged groups, but they do make a contribution to Hong Kong. And I think that the government should, the disadvantaged group may take up, say, 10% of the population in Hong Kong. So for the 80 hectares, should we be allocating 8 hectares for the local farmers? I think that's worth our consideration. I have made a written submission to the council, and I want to say that for the wholesale sector in the North District, we are lagging behind Taiwan, Japan, and Australia in simple terms, and we are using telephones or desktop telephones, but now people are using smartphones. So we should move ahead with the times. The government should not be paying lip service to whatever they're doing. We should commit the right resources to help the North District so that it can serve better the local farming sector and the agri-park. As for the farmers, I have a lot of farmer friends, and I think we should respect the farmers. They've never been begging for anything from the government. They work very hard to make their living, and we should respect them. Second, we should be fair. We should build a harmonious society. We must allocate a certain portion of the agri-park for local farmers, the disadvantaged group. The government has set many thresholds, and that drive the farmers away. I used to farm, maybe, and I wonder whether I will continue farming in the future. That has a lot to do with the government policies. Are you encouraging them to continue with farming, or are you driving them away? And I hope that the government can lower the threshold so that farmers can survive, and we must support and encourage local farming. And I hope that you can agree to my view. Next, we have Mr. Fong Kin Chung. Chairman and members, I am from the Quante Vegetable Marketing Cooperative Society Limited.
The Cooperating Societies submission has been submitted to the Secretary. Please peruse it. And I'd like to supplement here. And a lot of materials are needed in farming. For example, compost, the soil conditioners, seedlings, construction materials, and etc. And we need access for the agricultural produce as well. We need a really large carriageway to cope with all these demands. Hong Kong's agricultural produce come from the mainland and all over the world, Latin, North America, Middle East, Australia, etc. We depend very much on a good logistics network to transport fresh agricultural produce to Hong Kong for sale. And for modern farming, if we don't have a good logistics network to support it, then we would be losing out at the starting line. And how can we compete with the rest of the world? And for the planned carriageway by the government, we support it. When we talk about farming modernization, we need modern technology. And if farmers can be assisted by the technology sector, we can come up with innovative farming products, achieving win-win situation. We don't have much land in Hong Kong, but if we adopt new technologies, we can produce a lot of agricultural produce, even in very limited space. I have reared chicken myself. Say, if we have a 80-hectare plot, and if we adopt modern technology to rear chicken, then the eggs produced will be so many that it can meet the demands of all people in Hong Kong. Then wild pigs. The wild pigs often destroy the crops, and we're suffering heavy losses. And especially for crops that are ready to be harvested, the wild pigs like them very much, and they eat them. And the wild pig has a high fertilization rate, and for one female wild pig, it can produce 8 to 10 small pigs, and 5 of them can really live. And when these pigs get more, it seems that we don't have any solution to address this problem. Thank you, Mr. Fong. Next one, we have Mr. Tang Yunfan. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. I am speaking on behalf of the Pingshan Vegetable Marketing Cooperative Society, and to share with you our experience in farming. I've worked in the farming sector for a number of years. I started out in my teens. In the past, we relied on a lot of manual labor in our farming activity. We sold the products that way. But now, should we still be using that kind of methodology when we talk about building an agri-park? We are asking the government to formulate an agricultural policy, and now they are coming up with the idea of a small agri-park. How big is it? Well, whether it's big or small, at least it shows the government has a certain agricultural policy. Now, how come that some people are against this agricultural policy? They are not just objecting for objection's sake. They support the idea of an agri-park.
However, if there are no complementary facilities for the agri-park, later on it will have operational difficulties. The AFCD and the government have planned for an agri-park with roads and transport infrastructure. If you do a good job, I would think it is good to give it a try. I hope that all of you here will pay attention to safety. Wherever there are humans, we need agriculture. Without agriculture, nobody can live. If we need more than one agri-park, I hope you can give that some consideration. I hope the government can build 1 or 2 more agri-parks, so farmers have a way to support themselves, and people will grow old. I support the agri-park proposal. Thank you, Mr. Pun To Ming. Good morning. I am a latecomer. The forerunners that have spoken before me have done a lot to Hong Kong's agriculture. I am from Smart Green, and in fact the forerunners are saying that hydroponics is not agriculture, but in fact it is. It's just like we used to use desktop phones. Now we all use smartphones. Society progresses, times change. So should agriculture. We should reposition certain concepts. I agree that our forerunners had done a good job with agriculture. Hong Kong started with fisheries and agriculture and animal husbandry. A lot of our forerunners engaged in those industries. Farmland is a source of controversy in Hong Kong now. Some people say that the Hong Kong government is looking to turn farmland into residential land. Well, it's important to provide housing in Hong Kong as well. And if we can strike a balance between the two, with the acceptance of all quarters, I would support an agri-park, because at least I know that the government is placing emphasis on agri-park. I hope you forerunners and our predecessors, please look at this with a vision. We should not just look at using an axe to grind the land. Yes, you worked very hard, but hydroponics is the solution. You will not be exposed to the elements. You will still have good quality vegetables supplied to Hong Kong people. We should allow Hong Kong people to consume Hong Kong vegetables. The government should reconsider how you can look after the needs of all quarters. You must be compassionate towards the small farmers who are already farming in that piece of land. And when you go for development, you should be accommodating. We need roads, of course. You need transportation and logistical support. And you also have to look at the sales channels. So, regarding tenancy, hydroponics farmers actually invest more than traditional farmers. Advanced investment is always of a huge amount. But we have our heart in helping Hong Kong agriculture progress. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Yu Sheng Kwong. I'm the chairman of the Organic Farmers Association. I have been a full-time farmer for 10 years. I have been to Southeast Asia and other places to visit their organic farms. I am most impressed by one in New York. We took a coach to that center and we had to spend over 10 minutes to tour around it. We saw wheels which were taller than a human person. They were connected to water pipes to do irrigation. One person can sit in a farm wagon and he can harvest over 1 hectare of land. So modern technology can save manpower. We always talk about internationalization. But when now there is a chance for modernization and internationalization, you want to walk backwards. You want to become a traditional farmer. So I think you are putting the cart before the horse. A modern agri-park must be complemented by good roads. Without good roads, it is a lame park, and it is going to walk with cripples. And it will not be a modern agri-park. Every day we need to harvest vegetables. We send them to the VMO or to our customers. We also need to move fertilizers to the fields. We need some rainproof sheds. Without good roads, we would have to be like ants moving our produce around, and life will be hard. You always pay lip service to the interests of farmers, but you are making life difficult for us. The government is proposing an 80-hectare high-tech agri-park. So do you want to revitalize agriculture? Or do you want to put an end to agriculture altogether? The agri-park has been proposed for a year, but we have experienced 4 years delay already, and we have not seen anything happen. Who should take up the responsibility? Everybody points a finger at the government. We say that the government is lost in its tactics. And if I have to wait another 10 years, I would be too old to engage in farming. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Chair Chan Kwan. Thank you, Chair. I'm the Deputy Chairman of the Organic Farmers Association. I myself am an organic farmer. I support an agri-park with good transport infrastructure and basic accommodation. I hope there can be more than one such parks. I hope existing small farmers can be given priority. Thank you. Mr. Lam Tek Wai. Good morning, Chairman. We support the agri-park. It is good that Hong Kong is now making a systematic review of Hong Kong's agriculture, and that we would be given some dedicated place for production. We are a company growing small tomatoes in Hong Kong. All our farmers were born in the 80s or after that, and we have used all equipment imported from Europe. And we are exactly the kind of companies you like to promote and help. We face many different problems now, and the biggest one being that we have no place to build a greenhouse, and our existing policies do not allow us to build greenhouses. The world's agricultural trend is that we should be able to operate in a controlled environment. Whether it is organic or traditional or hydroponics, we need a controlled environment with controlled temperature. But in Hong Kong, if you ask the AFCD or Lands Department, if we want to build a greenhouse of 1,000 square feet, it is not allowed under the laws. We need to submit architectural plans, but then such costs will be too huge for any farm owner to afford. We have talked to different departments. to see whether we can have clearer rules and laws so we can do it in Hong Kong, but we haven't got any replies. We hope the agri-park will be the solution, because in the agri-park, there may be rules and regulations so that we can take reference from farms in other places. The AFCD has been a great help, but we hope the government will promote this, because other policy bureaus might not support this. We asked the Buildings Department, which referred us to the Lands Department, and then the Lands Department referred us back to the Buildings Department. That has been the case for the last 3 years. In addition, I'd like to talk about the tenancy, which runs for 5 years. But modern farming is very expensive. Let us look at the US and Europe. Usually, the return period is about 7 to 8 years. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Tam Chi Ho. Please give him the microphone. He's sitting on the seat, which is second from the right. I'm from Farm 66. I do farming indoor. I belong to the younger generation. I'd like to talk about our concept. Globally, we are going for organic farming by 2050. As you know, we need to increase farm produce by 70%. But 98% of our vegetables are imported, mostly from the mainland. And therefore, we face this food crisis. If we are only supplying 2% of our vegetable, it is not enough. How can we revive farming? We should enhance the self-supply rate, and we should go for modernizing farming. I don't want the agri-park to become a white elephant, because the government will be criticized. I hope officials will look at high-tech and also sustainable development. And I'd like to talk about 4 main areas. Actually, high-tech technology doesn't only mean indoor farming. An agri-park needs complementary measures, including the supply chain process, which should be optimized, and also we should enhance nutritional value of the produce. We should maximize the yield. Farmers should know how to maximize the yield, and also we should go for precision agriculture, meaning that we should use robotic technology, and we should also look at waste management and composting. And these are all part and parcel of modern farming. I have seen high-tech farming in overseas countries. I don't want our agri-park will just become a park with traditional farming methods. And then with regard to the environment, we need to look at 3 different factors, and we need to balance the environment, society, and economics. 80 hectares is not enough. We need to have the complementary measures. I don't want young people to just live in a shed next to the field, because they may not have any food supply or community activities. I hope the agri-park can allow certain buildings, even if they are cottages. Maybe there can be an agriculture center, because we have the foreigners and we have people like me who is a latecomer. Perhaps we can have a cluster which will build an ecological circle like what is in Cyber Park, because the foreigners have the traditional concept, and then we can have new mentality and new technology. I hope we can form a community together. Next one, Mr. Leung Wai Tong. Thank you. I represent a organization. I'd like to ask the government a few questions. Number 1, distribution of land in the agri-park. What is the mechanism for doing so if there is one? Number 2, small farmers do not have riches or power. How can you ensure that their rights will be protected in the future agri-park? Number 3, what will be the environment quality of the agri-park? How can you make sure, for example, that will be QA or QC for irrigation water? Number 4, the design of the agri-park. Have you considered natural disasters like rainstorms and typhoons, and how you can respond to these? Number 5, the design of the agri-park. Have you considered the characteristics of the different modes of farming? For example, some may engage in traditional or organic farming, some in hydroponics, some in leisure farming. How can they coexist in a harmonious way? That is important. Number 6, after this meeting, can we still submit supplementary papers to express my views? Number 7, I'd like to know whether you will update your records after today's meeting. Well, of course, you can always send in papers and we'll forward them to the administration. Next one, Mr. Shen Wenhong. I represent Evergreens Republic Company Limited, which is a new organic farm. We rear fish and grow vegetables in a symbiotic way. We have got certification from the US. We support the development of an agri-park. We think it is a good chance to develop local scientific research, which is quite inadequate now. With climate change, Hong Kong farmers are affected. Even if you have a greenhouse, a typhoon or a lack of sunshine may affect the quality and volume of the produce. In Hong Kong, we consume 2,000 tons of vegetables every day, but we produce less than 1% of that. So there is a market, and there are people who would like to engage in farming. But Hong Kong's technology and subsidy lag behind most countries in the world. If Hong Kong wants to continue to develop agriculture, we must go for unique scientific research which will benefit the local industry. In our own farm, we have tried to develop new produce and we have marked results. And we are not expensive compared to overseas products. And I am of the view that we can certainly compare with overseas produce. I hope the agri-park can become a platform for the farming industry to do large-scale research in order to confirm technology and their applicability and also to allow farmers to have exchanges. We hope the agri-park can allow students and those who want to engage in the farming industry and also the younger generation to take part and to learn about farming. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Yun Lin Chang. Good morning. I represent farmers as well. I'd like to ask the administration, do you want agriculture in Hong Kong? If yes, how can you support it? You should not stop by building an agri-park. You should try to understand what farmers need. Just like what is happening now. We supply vegetables in Hong Kong, but they usually come from Kunming, Ningxia, and Hebei in China.
If there is natural disaster affecting those areas, then there won't be any supply of vegetable to Hong Kong. What would happen? Do we have to wait for the central authorities to make a directive for vegetables to come to Hong Kong before they are distributed to the rest of China. Whereas in Hong Kong, we have a large piece of agricultural land laying idle, which is a waste of natural resources. Don't forget that in the 1960s, there has been consecutive 3 years of famine. Over 10 million people starved to death. That is the truth. With extreme weather and climate, it may happen again. What do you have as a plan to deal with that? That's what I want to ask. Anything else you would like to say? No, thank you. Next, Mr. Felix Lam. I'm concerned about agriculture in Hong Kong. In the past few years, I see that local produce are very popular. However, our yield is seriously affected by extreme weather. After a typhoon, rain shelters were destroyed, which then affect our yield. Apart from giving us land for us to continue our operation, perhaps you can make available other facilities for us to rent, say sturdy rain shelters. These facilities will protect our yield. This will ensure stable supply of vegetable produce. You can also make available subsidies and funding for us. Next, Mr. Yao Yok-lun. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We talk about land a lot in Hong Kong. I support the government in its establishment of the agri-park. We need a large department to deal with it. We don't want lip service saying that we have agri-park. Hong Kong should aim at being self-sustaining. Well, there is a species of vegetable being grown on the mainland. We have land here, but they have not been properly used. In Kutong North, there will be development. Kutong South, there will be public housing. There is still land in Tai Po, Sai Kung, a lot of places, a lot of abandoned villages in the new territories. There is a group of youngsters who ask for being self-sufficient, using bicycles, using footpath. That is unrealistic. Yes, we have to resolve housing problems. But what about agriculture? We are the most backward in Southeast Asia. Let's look at Taiwan. Their agricultural development has been going really strong. Why can't we have a similar department and supporting policies? We have over 100 abandoned villages because there is no connectivity. How come someone will oppose to something so good? What's their hidden agenda? I am a genuine farmer. I've been growing watercress from primary 6 to secondary 5. It's not easy. As soon as vegetable is harvested, they will be taken to the market to sell. We can't use conventional methods. We do need more automation. We ask for roads to empty villages. Well, let's look at very poor areas On the mainland, there are road connectivities. How come here that we don't have something similar? There are no roads leading to villages near the hillside. How do you expect fire engines to get there? Well, you talk about Hong Kong people ministering Hong Kong. This is it. Next, Miss Wang Chet Tai. Good morning. I am an office holder of a local farming association. I find it regrettable that the government has not consulted us. So we come here to express our views. The agricultural policy in Hong Kong is being implemented at a snail's pace. We do need roads for the agri-park. Connectivity is very important. Organic farming should be segregated from conventional farming because conventional farming uses chemical fertilizers, pesticides. This caused contamination, and this will in turn affect organic farming, so there needs to be segregation. The $500 million fund is not enough. We can only apply for small amounts. We find that very regrettable. Using this year as an example, we have dry spells, windy periods, rain season, flooding. Well, starting from April this year, we have been losing a lot of our produce. Soon as we have recovered, there is a typhoon. So you need to change the operation of the funds so that we can make applications to help with our operation in times when we're hit by natural disaster. We have a brand using organic produce. However, there is still reservation on the part of the government. There is an increasing demand for quality product to ensure public health. So we do need to produce safe food, healthy food. Organic farming protects our environment, protects biodiversity. It has huge significance. It makes great contributions. Lastly, I asked the government to implement the objective of agricultural policy to help the agricultural sector so that we can have sustainable development. Thank you. Next, Dr. Yao Wing Kwong. Thank you. Without the agricultural policy, what would happen now? I think you all agree that agricultural development is not progressing at all. It's in fact shrinking. There has not been any development whatsoever. Without a new agricultural policy, as old farmers age and retire, well, you see that will be a problem because in the past that they grow to sell, now they grow to consume the produce themselves. There are some youngsters who would like to engage in farming, but their scale is limited. You know, in Hong Kong, renting land is difficult. Of course, it's a good thing to have a new agricultural policy. I do think that people should not focus on nitty-gritties. If the policy itself is right, have faith so that government officials can properly plan. There has not been any development or promotion whatsoever in the past decade or so. So it will be difficult to start. If we ask for everything to be perfect before it can start, nothing will move forward. I made suggestions towards the new agricultural policy. When I met C.Y. Leung was happy. He said that he was determined to promote this policy and asked us to go see the Central Policy Unit. We did not expect it to surface in the next policy address. There are supporting policies and facilities as well. Now the agri-park is taking shape, and we have the Sustainable Agricultural Development Fund. Nothing can become perfect within just the first day. Open your mind, embrace it. If you want to engage in hydroponics, do so. If you want organic farming, do so as well. Let the market decide. Without the market, it will surely shrink. Next, Ms. Hu Li. Good morning, everyone. I am the treasurer of the New Territories Local Farmers Organic Vegetable Marketing Cooperative Society. We have a acute shortage of farmland in Hong Kong. Say, for example, in Long Yun, if we are to make good use of resources, we need to implement good planning to have environmentally friendly organic farming. We can't allow conventional farming in that area because the environment will be harmed. I ask government to seriously consider it. 2, at the moment, these environmental protection conservation policies are all in a mess because conventional farming methods destroy and pollute the environment. A lot of species have become extinct. Well, the Organic Resources Center said in August 2008 that pesticides, fertilizers used nowadays harm our environment, and it will also bring global warming. So please pay attention to that. Chemical fertilizers production use a lot of resources and energy. A lot of these chemical fertilizers is not taken up by the plant. They will be washed away and into the soil. And they use nitrogen dioxide. Well, I will give you the details shortly because this chemical harms the environment. I hope that the scale or the scope of the Sustainable Agricultural Development Fund will be expanded so that there can be more organic farming to promote sustainable development of our agriculture. There are no other individuals and deputations. We have received 31 of them, 35 of them so far. We'll give time for the government to give comprehensive response. There are a number of points that the government will need to pay special attention to. I can hear that a number of them have talked about the relations between the agri-park and the policy, and they've also talked about roads. Let's hear from the official, Dr. Choi. Thank you. Let me emphasize once again that in 2016, the policy address announced development of the agri-park. It shows the determination to promote agricultural development in Hong Kong, and we understand that agriculture plays a very important role for Hong Kong people. That's why there was this idea. In the exploration of the first phase of the agri-park, we have on various occasions, say for example, district councils, legislative councils, meetings with farmers, stakeholders, receive comments. We have heard a lot of comments about supporting facilities. We're aware of We are aware that roads are important for the development of the agri-park, and we need to strike a balance between that and the impact on farming. We hope to strike a balance. Essential supporting facilities for arable land, say for example storage, accommodation, irrigation, water quality, they've all been covered in the consultant's report. We've been monitoring them. And we also talk to people with vast experience. People are very concerned about planning, whether it is hydroponics, conventional farming methods, farming of different species. We will consider them more. We don't have the details at the moment, but we do need to strike a balance to meet the needs of everyone. We're also concerned about farmers who are affected in the land resumption and also the building of the road. We'll carefully deal with them. I will now open the floor for members to ask questions. We only have 2 members and myself, Ms. Eunice Young. Perhaps we start with 4 minutes. I thank the 30 agricultural experts to come to speak to us. They expressed their views to the government, but I am disappointed with the reply from the Undersecretary. I would like the Undersecretary to talk more about the new agricultural policy. People talked about farming methods using advanced technology. People talk about conventional farming. There has been a number of consultations. How come their demands have not been met? I heard from a lot of farmers that there are 3 main points: advanced technology, support for conventional farming, and support for the transition. Well, the setting up of the agri-park is to support the development of the sector, but I failed to hear any actual supporting initiatives for the sector. We hear about the planning of the agri-park. There will be new technologies. There will be support for organic farming. But what about conventional farming? Can assistance be given them to change? Well, what is the percentage of land for advanced farming methods, for conventional farming methods? What about segregation? What about irrigation? We need software, we need hardware. Without planning, how can we talk about software, hardware, and modernization? Some people talk about 5 years being too short. Everything takes time. And there is also investors and rate and return. So how did you set the 5-year term in the tenancy? And someone talked about typhoons. Typhoons affect agriculture. We just had Typhoon Mangkhut. Farmers lost a lot. They've even have their equipment and machinery damaged. You talk about funding. So what about the $500 million? Can it be used to help farmers when they go into agri-park?
Ms. Ms. Yong has raised three major questions. Undersecretary, please. Thank you, Chairman. First, on agriculture policy, can I defer to Dr. So, the DD for AFCD, to supplement? Thank you, Chairman. We heard a lot of views from the sector, and they asked whether the government has a policy to support agricultural development. We have launched the new agricultural policy recently, and today we are discussing in detail the agri-park, which is part of the new agricultural policy. We'll be making an overall response on questions raised on the agri-park. But apart from agri-park, under the new agricultural policy, we have three other major initiatives. First is about the $500 million Sustainable Agricultural Development Fund. There were views saying that small farmers have difficulties in applying for the fund. Indeed, we do have certain requirements. We have to strike a balance between the prudent use of public funds and facilitating the sector to apply for the fund. And a number of projects have been approved under the fund already. Some of them have to do with conventional farming. Others are supporting the development of organic farming. And we hope that, say, if the sector has certain requests and if they bump into difficulties in application, you can approach the Secretariat of the fund, which is willing to render support. And as far as vetting is concerned, well, we have a separate team for vetting. The second issue is that apart from agri-park, well, the agri-park is not very vast in area, and because of this, we have commissioned a consultancy study on agricultural priority areas, APN. We all think that maybe 80 to 90 hectares of land is not adequate, and for the agri-park, its positioning is that it will serve as a demonstration zone, say, for high-tech farming and also conventional farming, and for improvements to be made to these types of methods. As for farming on a large scale, that will be covered in the consultancy study on APN. We want to designate APNs apart from the agri-park. We can do more planning, and we would also provide incentives for the landowners to make available such land, especially for fallow agricultural land. They should be released for farming activities in due course. And the third issue is about whether poultry activities are allowed under agri-park. When we launched, we talked about the idea in the initial stage. We said that we would like to focus on farming produce. So we want to have vegetables and flour there. As for poultry activities, providing more land for poultry raising, improving on the hygiene of such farms, etc. In the consultancy study on APN, that will also be that will also be covered. Under the new agricultural policy, we would continue to strengthen the AFCD's role in supporting farmers in upgrading their technology. So for professionals and colleagues in our department responsible for liaison, they will be in touch with you, and we will provide technology support and advice to you. And then for the SADF, apart from research and long-term projects, there is also the Farm Improvement Scheme under the SADF, which will provide support to farmers to acquire farming equipment so as to enhance your efficiency. And under that scheme, approval is quite expeditious, and small farmers can be helped to improve on their farming methods. Dr. So talked about basic principles of the agri-park, so I have allowed him more time to speak. Well, let's stick to the 4-minute rule going forward. Mr. Pun Xiaoping. Thank you. The deputations for coming here to give us your views. To my recollection, in the last meeting of the panel when we discussed this, we knew that the 2016 policy address discussed this new agricultural policy, and the administration proposed setting up phase 1 of the agri-park. In our previous discussion, I learned that there were different views expressed in the consultation, especially on the planning of the carriageway. The Undersecretary said there have not yet been detailed plans for the agri-park to date. I would like to follow up. We will be having another session of the hearing in a minute. What is your timetable for the phase 1 of the agri-park? If I remember correctly, you said that there were objections to the planned carriageway. You said that you would submit such views to the CN Council for their consideration, and then they will make their final decision. So I would like to follow up. What is the implementation arrangement for phase 1 of agri-park? Dr. So. Thank you, member, for your question. On the progress of implementing the agri-park, in simple terms, starting October, we have kept consulting the stakeholders, and October last year we've got the support from the North District Council for the phase 1 infrastructure projects and for land resumption. In the course of our consultation, we have received over 50 submissions from various stakeholders. And in the main, they were on whether the carriage was needed, the alignment, and also the impact of the works on farmers, and also the future arrangements for farmers. And green groups also raised a concern on the project's impact on the ecology and the environment there. In May to July this year, the relevant departments have approached the landowners, the green groups, and farmers who have raised such concerns, and we have explained to them our position, overall position. What we are doing now is we are collating the views and analyzing them, and later on we would be putting forward our own stance and also the views of the stakeholders, and we'll be submitting those to the Executive Council for their deliberations. As for the planning for agri-park phase 1, we have engaged a consultant to embark on detailed planning. It's not just confined to phase 1. We are also covering phase 2. And for phase 1 planning, in our discussion with you, farmers here, we're discussing the need for carriageway and whether lodging facilities or accommodation facilities are needed. Well, when will you actually implement the park? Our plan is that towards the end of this year, we will come up with initial suggestions. In Q3 2019, the works on phase 1 will commence. Next one, Dr. Elizabeth Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. We are having 2 meetings at the same time. I have to run back and forth between the 2 meetings. But in any case, I've heard some of you. So thank you very much for coming here to give us your valuable views. I'm very concerned about agricultural development in Hong Kong. And for phase 1, we cover only 11 hectares. It's very small in area. So we can't really count on this 11 hectares to do a lot. And not many farmers can be accommodated there. And I know that the government would like to use phase 1 as a demonstration. I come from the IT sector myself, and I hope that through the development of the agri-park and the new agricultural policy, more high-tech farming can be introduced, more high-tech or modern facilities can be brought in. What farmers would like to know most is how is it related to them? How is it relevant to them? You said that there will be new equipment to be brought in, modern technology to be applied, etc. And local farmers are not IT people, right? And so does it mean that is not relevant to them? How can they participate in this? How can they improve on their own techniques so that their costs can be lowered, their productivity raised? Previously, we talked about organic farming, etc. These can help raise the income of local farmers. So can you give us specifics on how your plan can really help local farming development? Thank you. Under Secretary, thank you, the member, for your question. The Assistant Director, or rather the Deputy Director, has talked about the government's agricultural policy and our platforms to assist the local farmers. The agri-park is a hardware. It creates a physical facility for introducing technologies to drive farming in a certain direction. So it can serve as a demonstration platform. It is a pilot site. So how can we take things from there? So if we complete the 80-hectare agri-park, maybe we would not be able to cover everything. So we have to develop the APNs as well. Some deputations have talked about the constraints of the conventional farming and the adverse impact it poses on the environment. How can they transform their farming methods? I believe that everything is interactive. If we have a good platform or hardware, then we can be more interactive. And also through the SADF, we can help farmers in upgrading their hardware. We can help them improve their farming techniques. So through all these avenues, we can help local farmers who would like to transform themselves. Chairman, I would also like to know that many more consumers are willing to spend more to buy locally produced fresh produce. But as far as accreditation is concerned, we have all along relied on the sector itself or the university to do it. So how can you boost consumers' confidence in all these produce and also help local farmers raise their income? So what are the plans of the government in that regard? So can I ask the AFCD to take that question? Dr. So, 30 seconds for you. For the SADF, it subsidizes local accreditation bodies and helps promote accreditation efforts. And for local premium vegetables, for the VMO under the AFCD, that is the Vegetable Marketing Organization, through various channels, we help local farmers sell local premium or quality vegetables. So next is my turn. Thank you. I would like to thank the members of the public for taking your time to come and give us your views on Agri-Park. Dr. Choi, in his remarks just now, well, I find his remarks quite disappointing, like Ms. Yong. I hope that the government can elaborate on the basic concepts of Agri-Park in this platform, and also try to dispel misunderstanding of the sector towards the Agri-Park. Now, some deputations or members of the public talk about conventional farming, organic farming, and high-tech farming. And they talk about the difficulties, and they said that these various methodologies are also conflicting with each other as well. So, government, please listen up to this. The agricultural sector in Hong Kong is now in a transitional period, and CY Learn raised the new agricultural policy, which provides an opportunity for us to do better. But if we are not making the best use of this opportunity, we will only be aggravating the dwindling agricultural sector in Hong Kong. In the British colonial days, the farming sector was just left to fend for itself, and the government had never come up with incentives or positive policies. And now, even the SAR government has not doing enough to preserve quality farmland. Very often we heard that private developers are, making use of loopholes in the law to destroy first and develop later. So that's why we are seeing so many brownfield sites these days. That's one of the reasons. So the government should not be just tackling the issue from the perspective of the FHB. So, Dr. Choi, please talk to the Environment Bureau and also the Lands Department to see how you can make amends to the 4,000 hectares of land which have been used as dumping ground for construction materials. Some farmers have talked about conflicts between high-tech farming and conventional farming. And Mr. Chen, in particular, referred to the need to take care of the development of traditional farmers. Now, I must say this. Well, a project would not be successful just by having one putting in a lot of effort, but then a project can fail if one single person makes a mistake. So we should not be just counting on the government policies to help us. The sector should be united. We should also pay more efforts. Hong Kong is a capitalist society, and if we want to have sustainable development of agriculture, we count not just on provision of farmland. We should also make sure that farmers can fend for themselves. If you just have the farmland and the farmers don't work, and you are not protecting or safeguarding their interests properly, then that won't work. If, say, a security officer's pay is higher than that of farmer, then the farmers will switch to becoming security guards. So the government must face up to this. How come that we are having traditional farming in Hong Kong only? Even if we have some organic farming activities, they face a lot of constraints. Their tenancy period is very short, and a lot of deputations have asked that the rental period be extended to 8 years or 10 years. The government seldom said anything about this, so I'll leave you some time to tackle the issue on rental period, and I hope that the government can also give a consolidated response to other issues.
The tenancy runs for 5 years now, but you never said clearly what the renewal conditions were. And with regard to traditional or high-tech farmers, how can they meet these tenancy renewal criteria? Are these criteria workable? Dr. So, thank you. On tenancies, the first tenancy always runs for 5 years. When it is signed, say, for example, you are interested in coming to the agri-park, it is not that anyone who comes along will be accepted. There will be vetting and approval, and we'd like you to put forward a business plan. So we know what you want to do with the land in the agri-park, and what you propose to do will be good reference for other farmers if you succeed. We'll do some vetting along these lines. If you are found suitable, we will allow you to use the land. In that 5-year period, the AFCD will keep track of whether you are working towards the targets according to your business plan. If not, we will provide you with technological or other support helping you to achieve the target. If at the end of the tenancy period you have achieved the target, then we will certainly renew the tenancy. The mechanism is such that farmers accepted into the agri-park, if they follow their business plan, of course, if there are factors that are outside their control, we will give consideration to that. If they really follow their business plan, they will certainly have the tenancy renewed. So you need not worry. We need this mechanism so that those who are in the agri-park, but they do not engage in activities that will benefit the industry, then we'll say, sorry, we have to terminate your tenancy. Understood. Members, any other questions? If not, since we still have time, I'd like to ask another question and then we'll end this session. First, I'd like to thank individuals and deputations for coming to our public hearing today. The first session will end at about 11:10, and please come back at 11:15. Dr. So, I heard your reply on tenancies. You say that in the process, you would like them to achieve the targets. Yes, it's good to have targets, but whether or not people can achieve the targets, it is not very easy vis-a-vis farming in just 5 years. Say, as some deputations have said, you need to nourish the soil, and the second or even the third harvest may not mean meaningful production. You have talked about having production as the mode of operation in the agri-park. So do you look at the value of the produce, or do you look at the degree of completion of a project? Or what do you look at? And in the end, who will decide whether the farmer has achieved the target? Is it just the AFCD? I know the government will say there will be a committee, but what criteria does the committee work by? I think these are the concerns of farmers. If you just say, okay, there is a target, and farmers may just want to achieve the target and do whatever they can think of, and in the end, they may not engage in very proper farming efforts. And of course, I know that there will also be agriculture priority areas. Dr. So, the indicators or target will not be set by the AFCD. Those will be in the business plan proposed by the farmers themselves. When an application is made through a business plan to use land in the agri-park, we'll vet the plan to see whether the indicators are reasonable or too ambitious. We'll look at the reasonableness of the targets set. In my previous reply, I said that if there are factors outside farmers' control and so they do not achieve the targets, we will have room for discussion about renewal of the tenancy. Chairman, you asked if targets are not achieved and whether it will just be up to the AFCD to decide whether the reasons advanced are reasonable. Now, that would not be the case. Our initial thought is that operation and tenancy arrangements at the agri-park will be handled by an advisory committee. Whether it is going to be called an advisory committee or a management committee, that will be decided later, but there will be a committee to assist the AFCD to look at such cases. Like other committees of the government, there will be professionals and industry representatives on this committee. The committee will make recommendations to the director so that the views of the different sectors are represented. Thank you. The 4 minutes have fled by. I actually have more questions, but I think I will have a chance in the next session. I think the public or the deputations have heard the replies from the administration, and if you still have questions, please reflect them to the government through other channels. Theoretically, we will not receive individual deputations. Maybe you have contacted our complaints section or maybe you have written in, but we will certainly pay regard to your views. Okay, I'd like to thank the officials, members, and also deputations for coming. We'll now take a break. We'll come back at 11:15.